I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Oscar winner Natalie Portman. Natalie, I really admire how The Lady in the Lake tells this really dense, layered story in the 60s, 50s, and the 40s through these really converging timelines, dream sequences, musical interludes, flashbacks. There's a lot to unpack when you watch this show. And I just wonder, what did you find most exciting or rewarding about working on a project with such a narrative structure? Innovative, sorry, narrative
Yeah,
structure.
I think that it was really Alma Harrell. She's just really a visionary, and it was so creatively fulfilling every day working with her. She came with such energy and such vision and such leadership and such positive energy consistently for so long. I mean, it takes so long to make something like this. And every day she just always pushed us to better places and more interesting places and showed us beautiful things. And it was really just a dream to collaborate with her.
It looks like she really wanted to take a lot of risks with the way in which this show is going to be presented and filmed. And I mean, that is always something to really admire. I wonder when you're in the thick of production and you're working together and you're coming up with all these different ideas in ways in which you can make this show really shine. Is there ever a moment where you think to yourself, wow, this is something that I've never really done before, and I'm going to learn something new after all these years in the industry? Does that ever occur to you on a show like this?
Yeah, every day. I mean, I also, because I was producing, it was really, uh, just like a train rushing quickly when we were on it, and troubleshooting in between shooting. And it was incredible because Alma dreamed big and always had incredible ideas. And just to make them a reality and to deal with the many challenges that came up was such an incredible work experience and learning experience. And also very challenging. It was definitely the most challenging shoot of my life, but the most rewarding also.
Just thinking along the lines of how challenging this shoot would have been, my understanding it went for more than 3 months. There's something like 480 something scenes in this show that needed to be done. When you have that kind of project ahead of you, given this is really your first major TV series in the lead role, um, did you have to do anything different for something like this as opposed to all the films that you've worked on?
Yeah, I had no idea what I was in for. I think Alma shot for like 6 months. I think the whole series was like 6 months. My part was like three and a half. And it was I think none of us had any idea because we had like unexpected crazy things that would pop up all the time. And it was it was exciting and interesting, and each challenge obviously gave us all new skills, and also I think taught us the power of our relationship with each other. I mean, the thing that I think was so extraordinary was that through it all, we were all so close and supported each other, and really were a team and figured out solutions together to anything that came up. And it was just an incredible collaboration with the other producers, and of course with Alma and the other actors.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge undertaking to take on for your first major starring role in a TV series after all this time. And, it could have all gone really badly. And thankfully, it is such an incredible thing to watch and to immerse yourself. I found it sometimes confounding and fascinating. And it wasn't until the end that it all kind of came together for me. And that is so satisfying when you watch a show and you spend, your quality time with it. I just wonder, what's the feedback that you've been getting about the show? Because it's been out for a little while, and the reviews that I've read have been all really, really positive. So that's obviously something that you really must value.
Well, thank you so much, because I think that it's so meaningful when you make something to have someone interact with it on such a deep level. And I appreciate your time that you spent with it, because that's the other thing with the series is that, you're asking for a lot of participation from the audience and a lot of commitment. And it's very moving when people come up to me, like you just did, but I also have had it in my own life, and people are moved by the series and the vision and the unusualness of it, the originality of it, and also I think the visual splendor of it. I think the cinematography, the production design, the costume design are all so extraordinary, and of course the performances from Mikey Madison to Moses Ingram. I mean, centrally, uh, uh, everyone knows you, but I think like there's just so many incredible performances there, and Ilan Noel, and I think people have just really reacted a lot to all of them.
Absolutely. And I'm giving a shout out to Brett Gelman as well, because he's so good at playing that kind of really annoying husband with, with a heart of gold, so to speak. Um, so creator Alma Harrell, she said she was interested in investigating the duality between being an oppressor and the persecuted in the 1960s. That's really interesting to me. It's not something that I was really that familiar with in terms of what I've been thinking about. What interested you in exploring this as one of the show's overarching themes?
Yeah, Alma and I talked a lot about it, of what it means to be part of an oppressed group, but also be an oppressor. And that, one doesn't, you know, uh, prevent you from being the other, that you can be both, and how complicated that is, and how much it's important for us to examine that. And I think, for Jews, it's a very specific story that is interesting in the United States, because, of course, there was oppression and still is. There was anti Semitism and still is. And this kind of privilege of being able to pass for white, or to join this false construct of whiteness, was, of course, and is, of course, a survival mechanism, but also has complicity in the larger oppressive structure in the US of this, concept of whiteness. And so that complication is something that both Alma and I, as Jews living in the United States, were interested in exploring.
Yeah, it's not something that I was expecting. I was expecting a really intricate murder mystery, and I was totally ready for that. This whole overarching thing really opened my eyes to this whole concept of, you know, um, in the civil rights era in Baltimore, you have a portrait of racial prejudice, sexual oppression, and then also asking what freedom and liberation actually means, especially if it can't be achieved for one without, it being at the expense of the other. And it reminded me a lot of, there's a really great comedy special last year from Alex Edelman, Just for Us, about things around that theme. So fascinating to me. And I just wonder if it's changed your perspective at all moving forward, just in your own life and in the general world.
Yeah, I think that often when you're seeking your own liberation, you aren't, you're, it's such, an inward facing struggle, and inner facing, it's exploration, that you're really looking into yourself of how you can free yourself, that you can sometimes be blinded to other people right near you who might be going through uh, a similar quest, even if under very different circumstances. They might also be trying to liberate themselves, but from their different circumstances. And so I think it just puts the kind of emphasis on needing to constantly look outward, even when you're looking inward, and to pay attention to what other people are going through, even if you're going through something very profound yourself.
Yeah, of course, empathy is always something that we strive for, but it's really sometimes hard to achieve when you're also struggling. And so I think that is something that I definitely took out of this. Also, this, given that it's predominantly set in the 1960s, it's a really interesting reminder about the significant social and cultural change that was happening then and has happened since. Um, did you connect at all on a personal level about portraying a woman navigating that very challenging era, especially in the context of her career and her personal life?
Absolutely. In some ways, it was very striking how much things have changed. To do the research on newsrooms in the 1960s and understand that women were, maybe there was one woman in the newsroom, if any at all, and to see what that is today, you can see how much change has happened in a relatively short amount of time. But then in other ways, I think that we still can see how far we have to go. I mean, I think in the ways that we can still relate to so many of the issues of, this kind of uh, depicting of a woman who leaves her child to go pursue her work as a monster, that still, I think, persists today. And that there's this kind of like dichotomy between being an ambitious career woman and being a good, devoted mother, that there's still this inability to see a woman as both, or to see a woman in the way we might see a man making similar choices. So I think that, yeah, some of the things that you experience are real, like, blasts from the past, and some of them you feel like are still very resonant today.
Yeah, because Maddie effectively leaves Seth and Milton to explore this other side of her life and career, we're supposed to not like her. Oh, that's a terrible thing to do. But I found your performance so compelling because I was, for some reason, always on her side. And I have a feeling it's because you're really, really adept at portraying vulnerability under the surface. Because she's got a lot of rage, regret, sorrow, even, but she's really stoic as well. And I wanted to see her succeed. Is that something that occurs to you when you're playing a role like this, where you have to show a lot without showing a lot, if you know what I mean?
I don't really think about how it's going to be received, because that feels very external, but I do try and make someone as human as possible. And I think that that's also credit to Alma, that she was constantly wanting to show different aspects of her. So, I mean, you could see her do something really reprehensible, but then you see her do something that's very human and loving, and both of those things can coexist within the same person. And Alma says that her style is kind of like one foot in the grave, one foot on a banana peel. And I think that helps too, that she wants them to be as ridiculous as they are, dark and profound, so that you have this constant, like, very human um, layering of how silly and ridiculous we can be, and how hard and challenging life can be, and all of those things coexist in each of us.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult sometimes when you're playing a character from earlier in her life? Like, so in this series, it was in the 1940s. I noticed a real adjustment in the way you were portraying Maddie. Younger, obviously, but more innocent, more perhaps maybe more positive. I'm not really sure. Not weary. What kind of work do you have to do to put yourself in the mindset of a much younger version of this character?
Well, it's really funny because I never, reading the script, thought I was going to play those parts. I think, like, until we started shooting, I was like, oh, they're hiring a younger actress to play me at 18, right? And it was only once we started shooting and I saw that I was scheduled to work on those days. And I said, Alma, I think there's a mistake here. It says that I'm working on these days. And she's like, oh, yeah, you're doing it. We're using like de-aging technology. And then I had to kind of wrap my head around, oh, I have to think about who this character was before, which is interesting even as an exercise to really consider what the person was like, you know, before all of these life events happened to her and how that formed who she is, you know, when we find her in the present day 1960s of the series. And so it was a kind of gift, even though it felt very silly, you know, when I was doing scenes, you know, with my co-star who was my age, but I was pretending was 20 years older or whatever, you know, it was very funny to me. Obviously the scenes are not funny at all, but it was a funny scenario.
I can imagine, because I was thinking if it was me, first of all, I'd be begging for that de-aging technology in everything that I do from now on, including this.
Yes, it was very exciting.
It's very exciting. And I couldn't tell. I just said, oh, well, she's got some nice makeup on. And it was all in the... So I give all complete credit to you. So I have two very quick non-Lady in the Lake questions before I let you go. We're Gold Derby. We have to talk about awards. It's in our DNA. So you've been nominated for 3 Oscars. You won in 2010 for Black Swan, of course. So when you won, I think it was 13, 14 years ago now, you were so genuinely emotional, pregnant. You thanked people like Besson and Nichols and, of course, Aronofsky. What do you most vividly remember about that night?
Oh, I mean, being pregnant through award season was tough. I mean, it's like very intense to not drink during all of those ceremonies and you know, interviews and everything. So I remember being very grateful that I wasn't going to have to wear heels again for a while. That just felt like, oh, I'm gonna get to wear my sweatpants at home and not do hair and makeup. But it was obviously incredible, and it was incredible having my family there. My parents were there, my cousin was there, and it was just like a very joyful night. And of course to celebrate with Darren and the rest of the crew and cast was incredible because that movie meant so much to me, and was such an amazing experience.
Yeah, I think that win really stands a test of time. We look back on winners over the years, and Black Swan is always one that people point to as such an amazing film, and of course your performance. Final question, because my teenage daughter has been texting me saying, please, please say hi to Natalie for me because you are her favorite actress. And
oh, that's really nice. Thank you.
I would love to ask you this on behalf of all the nerds out there. Obviously, there's been so much enthusiastic love and appreciation for the Star Wars prequels lately. I find they've really come back as something that people really love and look back on positively, especially for you and Hayden. What have you most valued about being part of the Star Wars phenomenon?
I think it's exactly what you're saying, is just that it becomes such a meaningful part of people's childhoods and youths. And I think George really intended that. You know, he really made those prequels for his children. His kids were young at the time. And I think it's really a testament to his love for them, and I think young people feel it, that it's for them. And it's amazing to be part of people's like cultural upbringing in that way. So I mean, it's really makes me so happy anytime someone comes up to me about it.
I think it just must be so indescribable to be a part of people's lives like this, because it really is so important to people to have these characters that they can adore over the years. That being said, thank you for your time today, Natalie. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful work in the Lady Night.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a great week.